Husband's been secretly working multiple jobs to hide his affair with a coworker from me, and I don't mean he picked up a couple of shifts for the holidays. I mean he turned our marriage into a spreadsheet with columns named cover stories and alibis. I'm Priya, 31, a night shift nurse, which means I spend 12 hours at a time listening to machines tell me how close a body is to the edge, and somehow I didn't notice my own house beeping red until the batteries had already been swapped for silence. It didn't start with lipstick on a collar. It started with lanyards. Strange, right? But when you live with a nurse, everything is laundry and lanyards. My ID badge for the hospital, his for the tech company he's worked at for 5 years, and then one morning there were 2 of his on the key hook. Same company logo, different department color. I held the extra one in my hand and thought maybe they rebranded? The clip was cheap. The plastic smelled new, like a classroom on the first day when you still believe in organization. New lanyard? I asked, casual, when he came into the kitchen, hair damp, that clean slate smell of a man who isn't thinking about the day yet. Oh, that, he said, popping bread into the toaster. They changed the access zones. My old team is mentoring the warehouse division for a bit. I nodded. I don't understand his job the way he doesn't understand mine. He thinks my nights are Grey's Anatomy with more broken printers. I think his days are a series of password resets. We love each other across that gap like people yelling to each other from different balconies. It usually works. 2 weeks later, the new lanyard had company, a third one branded for a delivery service dangling from the coat rack like a dare. I'm helping a friend with a weekend rollout, he said when I held it up. Consulting. Quick cash. You said you wanted to get ahead on the loans. He said it sweetly, like a husband who listens. He said it in the same voice he uses to ask how my feet are after a 12. I believed him. That's the part that stings in the retelling, the tidy simplicity of my belief. You can blame the fatigue if you want. Nights scramble your sense of linear time. On my days off, the sunlight looks like it's trying to commit perjury. People text Happy Friday when it's my Wednesday. I chalked the extra lanyards up to my scrambled clock. Small things gathered anyway. Receipts in his jeans pocket from a sandwich place across town he hates. A second pair of work boots he swore he bought because the warehouse floor is cold. Slack notifications at 10 p.m. from usernames I'd never heard of. You headed over, turned face down on the coffee table like conspirators. His body started smelling faintly of hand soap I knew wasn't ours, that sharp lemon kind industrial places buy by the drum. It clung to him at midnight, at noon, at times no one was supposed to be near a drum. I told myself I was collecting noise, not evidence. Then my patient in 4B coded at 3 a.m., and while the team moved with the muscle memory of people who have practiced saving a stranger's life in rooms the size of sorrow, my mind kept saying, this is how you know when a thing is failing. The alarms go off together. Something in me was failing without the alarms. I drove home at sunrise, palms buzzing with the leftover adrenaline that takes hours to land, and I walked into our kitchen to find a pay stub on the counter that didn't belong to us. It was for him, obviously, his name, his address, but from the delivery service I'd only seen on his lanyard, and the hours made me blink. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. 3 nights a week, right on top of his late at the office nights. Overtime at his main job, nights in a warehouse, and then last week I'd seen a rideshare sticker peeking from his glove box. He had stacked work like a gambler stacks chips between himself and consequence. Are you okay? I asked him that evening, trying to keep my voice in the calm range we use for families in my unit when the scans look worse than the doctor prepared them for. This is a lot. You don't have to carry everything. He looked me in the eye with a tenderness that made me hate him for 30 seconds. I like being useful, he said. You're the one who works through the night and keeps people alive. Let me carry some weight. A week later, I opened the bank app to pay for a dentist bill and found a deposit from a third place, a tiny co-working studio across town I thought was just a place where people with good shoes drank better coffee. The descriptor said, night attendant. My head did the math, and the math did not produce a human. No one works 3 jobs, keeps their main one, and smiles through dinner like their bones aren't tired unless they're hiding a 4th thing, a reason. It clicked, no, not clicked, slid into place one afternoon when I was flipping our wall calendar to a new month and a small paper square fell out. It was a visitor pass to his main office, printed with a name I recognized from a story he once told about a team offsite gone weird, Maya. The date matched a Wednesday he'd said he was training warehouse guys and would be out of phone range. I stared at the pass like it would brief me. Visitor, it said. Authorized by him. I'm not a snoop. I am an empiricist. But empiricists still need data. I put my phone on the table and made myself a sandwich like eating could be a ritual for courage. Then I texted him, "Did Maya drop by today?" I found a pass. The 3 dots didn't appear. Then they did. Then they stopped. Then, oh yeah. Just for a second. She's freelancing with us on the rollout. I set the phone face down and watched it breathe in notifications. I felt something inside me open like a drawer where you stash takeout menus and old stamps and the letter you never mailed because you started crying halfway down the page. There's a moment in every shift where you decide whether someone in front of you is sick or just in pain, and the plan is different depending on your call. I decided right then in the kitchen at 3:20 p.m. that my marriage was sick. Not terminal yet, but short of breath. I didn't confront him that day. I wanted better chats. After midnight at the hospital, between meds and vitals and convincing a man with 10,000 stories that he was safe, I pulled up the schedule he'd shared with me on the calendar app we used to pretend we were both old-fashioned and modern. His entries were performative, late at office, warehouse mentoring, consult gig. They were written to be seen. I added my own, "Priya, do not forget that you are frighteningly good at pattern recognition." The next night, I did the thing I'm not proud of but am not ashamed of either. I followed him. Not sneaky, not dramatic. He said he was going to the warehouse. I said I'd catch a nap before my shift. He kissed my forehead and left the smell of lemon soap and humility. 10 minutes later, I got in my car and drove to the warehouse district, pulled past the bay doors and parked across the street, engine off, heart making its arguments. The bays glowed. Men in reflective vests moved like an organism that had agreed on something. His car wasn't there. I sat there for 10 minutes refusing to cry because if you cry in your own car you have to tip yourself, that's the rule. Then I did what every woman who has ever loved a man wishes she didn't know how to do. I drove to the office instead. The co-working studio. I told myself I'd park, I'd watch for 5 minutes, I'd go home and sleep. I didn't need 5 minutes. I needed one. They came out together. Maya had her hair up the way women do when they've been working and also when they've been touched. He had his hoodie cuffed to the elbows and that loose posture men get when they feel seen. She laughed and touched his arm, light like a check-in, like a person who had been there long enough to know where the tenderness lived. He put his hand on her back as he opened the door. It was a small, thoughtless gesture. That's the kind that kills you. I drove home very slowly, like speed could be interpreted as hysteria. At red lights, I practiced my breathing. In the mirror, my face looked exactly like mine. That was the strangest part. I walked into our apartment like a ghost who still pays rent and put my badge on the counter next to his lanyards and lined them up. Nurse, tech, warehouse, delivery, co-working, and thought. You can build a bridge out of this many lies, but it's still over a river that remembers your name. He came home 2 hours later with that lemon-clean smell and set a container on the counter. "Got you soup," he said, smiling. "You said night shift soup is all you can hold sometimes." That is the thing about betrayal. It will show up with soup like a gentleman. I stared at the lid. My hands floated to my sides. "I saw you," I said, and my voice surprised me with how quiet it was. "At the studio. With Maya." He didn't pretend I was wrong. He didn't bluster. He didn't ask what I meant in that insulting way people ask for definitions when the vocabulary is obvious. He put his hand on the counter and the other hand to his mouth, and he closed his eyes like a patient about to hear the bad news from the doctor who looks like me. "Okay," he said. "I was going to tell you." I laughed. I didn't mean to. It erupted, a bark. "Okay. Give me the version that flatters you least." He swallowed. "I didn't set out to," he stopped. "A small mercy. I was exhausted. You were exhausted. Every conversation felt like we were swapping reports. At work, Maya, she's easy to talk to. She asked me how I was and let me answer badly. And then the warehouse stuff started and the deliveries and the studio. He looked at me finally. It made the affair invisible. I could stack jobs and you would believe I was just being generous. I hate that sentence even as I say it. You built a cover using wages, I said. You made capitalism your alibi. I know. How many jobs is the truth? I asked. He took a breath. 3, he said. Plus my regular. I started sleeping in my car sometimes instead of coming home between shifts so I wouldn't smell like anything unfamiliar. I brushed my teeth with those awful gas station kits and chewed gum and told myself you were sleeping anyway. I told myself I was giving you space. Space isn't a hotel, I said. It doesn't charge by the hour. We sat with that. The soup cooled. The lemon smell receded, replaced by our kitchen, our home, the one with a stubborn plant in the window and a painting we bought from a woman on the sidewalk because her laugh touched something soft in both of us. I thought about my patience, the way the monitors decay into noise when a heart stops and how after the silence is indecent. The silence in our kitchen wasn't indecent. It was a tool. It let us choose. Do you love her? I asked, not because I wanted the knife, but because I wanted to know my own bleeding. His face went white and then human again. I love the person I get to be next to someone who doesn't know all my failures, he said. That person is effortless. With you I have to be complete. Complete is a burden, I said. But it's also the honor. You don't get to offer me the edited cut. He nodded. He looked around like he had lost his place in the room we own. I'm sorry, he said. Then smaller, I'm so tired. Of what? I asked. Me? The lying? Being interesting. Of pretending the right thing will be easy as soon as I decide it, he said. It wasn't. So I kept deciding the wrong thing because it gave me an immediate reward. There it was, the diagnosis. Immediate reward syndrome. A terrible disease, mostly survivable with treatment and humility. Here's what's going to happen, I said, and my voice found the authority I use when the new resident panics. You are going to quit the extra jobs. Today. All of them. You can tell them your wife said you're not allowed to martyr yourself for their bottom line. Then you're going to send Maya a message that I will read, saying you won't be seeing her again for any reason that isn't a meeting on a calendar other people can see. You will put your phone on the table and your devices will stop being face down like a guilty dog. Then you are going to sleep in the guest room for 2 weeks while we decide whether we are a marriage or a very expensive roommate situation. He nodded like I just told him his loved one needed a PICC line. Okay, he said. He didn't argue. He didn't bargain. The bargaining came later in therapy where it belongs. He sent the message. It wasn't a sonnet. It didn't try to launder a bad thing into romance. This was wrong, it said. I hurt my wife. I am choosing my home. She replied with something clean and adult. I hope you fix what you broke. I wanted to hate her. I couldn't. She had not made a vow to me. He had. He quit the warehouse and the delivery and the studio. The lemon soap faded from our home the way a stubborn smell does, slowly with reminders. He slept in the guest room and I lay in our bed and discovered that I can occupy space without narrating it to myself. I cried at stupid things, an ad where a kid runs toward a parent, the word mentor in an email, a coffee mug we bought on a trip where we believed in our unkillable charm. I also laughed at stupid things, an old video of us trying to put together a bookshelf at midnight, his voice on a voicemail pronouncing tchadziki like a toddler casting a spell. Grief is messy. So is living. So is mercy. We went to therapy. He told a stranger the story without making himself either villain or hero. I told a stranger the part where I hide behind competence and call it love. We learned phrases with too many syllables, differentiation, triangulation, and then translated them into kitchen language. We made a plan, Sunday night debriefs with agendas and snacks, rule that no one gets to say fine when they mean abandoned, Rule that phones are allowed to be boring in front of each other. Rule that no one does heroics for the electricity bill without confessing the need to be applauded first. He said once, the sentence that let me stop holding my breath. Working 3 jobs was easier than telling you I was afraid you didn't need me. And do you know now? I asked. I know that wanting to be needed is not the same as being worthy, he said. And I want the second thing. We aren't a movie. There's no montage where we paint a wall and kiss and a song forgives us. There's a wall that still needs paint and a dog that needs walking and a bill we forgot and the long, unglamorous work of telling the truth before it's pretty. There are days I see a lanyard and my hands go cold. There are days my night shift brain makes me mean. There are also mornings he hands me coffee at 6:45 and says, "You kept people alive," like it's a toast, and I remember why I said yes to this exact person. Sometimes I still drive past the co-working studio on my way home from the hospital and look at the windows to see if the night is holding anyone else's secret. Sometimes I park and sit for a minute, not to spy but to remind myself that nothing is inevitable. That a person can choose to go home. That I did. That he did. That if either of us forgets again, we have a better plan than stacking paychecks like excuses. We have a couch we both sit on. We have the rule about fine. We have the kind of love that owns its receipts. If you're reading this and your kitchen feels off and your partner smells faintly of a life you don't recognize, this is me in scrubs with tired eyes telling you 2 things. Your body is a good detective and your dignity is not a bomb you have to throw to be heard. Ask for the schedule. Ask for the lanyards. Ask for the passwords to be face up on the table. If they love you, they will bring the soup and the truth. If they don't, you will still be the kind of person who can stand in her own kitchen at 3:20 p.m. with a sandwich and a plan and say softly, "I saw you." And then you will decide, not just react. That's the part that's yours. The other day, he came home early. Early is a miracle when you've gotten used to late. He set down his one lanyard, the right one, and he said, "Do you need anything?" I almost said no because I'm fluent and I've got it. Instead I said, "Yes. I need you to sit with me while I stare at the wall for 5 minutes and say nothing." He grinned like a man thrilled to be needed in the least glamorous way. We sat today. We said nothing. The wall did its best. We were quiet and we were together and no one was hiding from the arithmetic. There are no after credits. There's tonight. There's the sound of his toothbrush. There's my shoes by the door for another shift where I will persuade machines and human beings to behave. There's a lanyard on the hook that doesn't lie. There's a lemon-scented hand soap on our sink that I bought myself because yes, I can steal back smells too. There is us, not heroic, not ruined, just on purpose. And I will take on purpose over invisible any night of the week.